Let's do some takeaways from the Spurs win. Yes, win over the Pacers. Should the Spurs trade up in the NBA draft? And maybe should they take a flyer on Bronny James?
You are Locked On Spurs, your daily San Antonio Spurs podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey, this is Hot Rod.
And I'm RC from the Cybertronic Springs.
And you're listening to Locked On Spurs with Jeff Garcia.
Hey, welcome back to Locked On Spurs. I'm here on the Locked On NBA Network. I'm your host, Jeff Garcia, Spurs writer for Ken's 5 San Antonio. Happy Monday, everybody. Hope you had a restful, recharge the batteries kind of weekend, and we'll get you through it starting the work week right here on Locked On Spurs. Hey, we thank you all for making Locked On Spurs your first listen each and every day. We're available wherever you get podcasts, Ken's 5 Plus app, YouTube, Spotify, Apple, iTunes. The list goes on and on. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Make every moment more with FanDuel. Right now, new customers get themselves $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 bet. That's $150 if your bet wins. You want to go to FanDuel.com/lockedon right now to get started. Hey, what are we talking about today? We're going to be looking back at last night's Spurs win. Yes, win second straight in a row. W's? What? Yeah, beating the Pacers, another power team out east. We're going to be going over some quick takeaways of that. And then bringing our guest, Casey Viera, my colleague at Ken's 5. We're going to be going over the fact that the Spurs should perhaps consider trading up in the draft. Now, for those who have been listening to the last few Locked On Spurs, we discussed trading out, trading down. Now we're going to be discussing trading up. So we'll continue that pattern right now. And then later, Casey and I are going to be talking about Bronny James. Should the Spurs take a chance on Bronny James if he's available whenever they do pick at the NBA draft? That's coming up next on Locked On Spurs. But first, your Spurs, they won again. Yes, they did win again. They picked up their 13th win this season, beating the Pacers 117-105. Yeah, you heard that right. Beating the Pacers. The Spurs move up to 13-48. And yeah, they got a win. So what are some three takeaways that I liked? Well, closing out the second half strong. Normally, we've seen that before this whole season, Spurs sputtering the third or just coming apart in the fourth. Not this time. The Spurs beating the team that has one of the best offenses in the NBA, outscored them 34-29 in the third and 31-28. They were the ones being the offensive juggernaut versus Indiana. So I liked how the Spurs closed out that second half, putting away the team, Indiana, and cruising to win. So that's takeaway number one, two great final periods for the Spurs. Takeaway number two, weathering the storm. Yes, the Pacers, you knew they were not going to go down quietly. They cut a big deficit down to just about 4 points late in the second half. I thought that was a sign of the Spurs going to crumble. Like, here we go. Youth is going to be showing again. Veteran presence. The Pacers are going to take over. Halliburton is going to do his thing. Matthews is going to – nope. The Spurs weathered the storm, and then they kept on defending. They kept on making buckets. Indiana hit a three. Spurs hit a three. Just that total composure in the Pacers' attempt to come back. I like that. I like that a lot. It shows me they're making steps in the maturity department. Popovich talked about this earlier this season, saying sometimes this team is very immature. Last night versus Indiana, they showed maturity. I like that. I think that's something the Spurs can build on for the remaining games of the season, carry that over into the next season. Speaking of offense, the Spurs 40% from the three line, 10 for 25. Yeah, Spurs actually won that battle versus Indiana. The Indiana shot 6 for 30, good for 20%. So the Spurs got that offensive head, that beat them in that department. One of the strengths of Indiana. So way to go, Spurs, and getting that statistical category down in your favor. Takeaway number 3. What more can we talk about Victor Wembanyama? What more? Is there anything left to talk about? Is he living up to the hype? Yes. Is he living up to that generational label that he got way before he came into the NBA? Absolutely. And he did it again. He's proving everybody he is built for this game, for the league. He finishes with 31 points. Yes, 31 points, 12 rebounds, double-double for Victor, 6 assists, gets 6 blocks on the night. Yes, another game where he has 5 blocks or more. in a game. He just did it all. Kept turnovers at a minimal 3. He was a plus 19 for the Spurs in the plus minus. This guy was doing it all. Seriously, he hit 3 3-pointers, 11 for 17, 31 minutes. Yeah, the real deal. He is the real deal. Throwing 1 steal for the game. I mean, he just continues to amaze. It's going to be amazing to see his career, and we're just seeing it get started. Yeah, this is getting started for Victor in the NBA. This is what his baseline is. So you can only imagine, project what he'll look like in year 2, year 3, year 4. Will anybody stop him? Well, anybody can. Could he do it? Could anybody in the league? We'll find out. But another just big game for Victor Wembanyama. Yeah, Spurs rebuild is having a nice little cornerstone on their side, huh? With that guy, number 1 in uniform. By the way, quick shout out to other Spurs that did really well. Sohan, 12 points in the game. You also had Devin Vassell with 17 points, 18 points from Malachi Branham. Good game for Malachi. Good to see him coming back. Remember, after a while, he was kind of put away on the bench. Popovich said that a message had to be sent. Well, he's definitely responding. But, yep, those are my 3 takeaways from the Spurs win over Indiana. So the Spurs next go back out on the road. They'll next play, brace yourself, Houston. That should be an interesting game. The Texas rivalry is next. Spurs at Houston. Looking forward to that. Coming up next, we have Casey Viera, my colleague at Ken's 5 San Antonio. We're going to be discussing if the Spurs should trade up in the draft, and then discussing Bronny James in a Spurs uniform. Yeah, quick note, though. Again, as y'all know, Casey is a dad now, so unfortunately, he could only do audio only. So the next few segments are going to be audio only with Casey Viera. But nevertheless, it's going to be a great chat. Stay tuned for it. That's next right here on Locked On Spurs. Hey, but first I want to talk about FanDuel. Get buckets with your first bet on FanDuel, America's #1 sports book. Because right now, new customers get themselves $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 bet. That's $150 if your bet wins. Look, you bet on all your favorite NBA players and teams, from quick bets to live same-game parlays to exclusive props, so much more. Go get the FanDuel app right now. Put it on your phone. Put it in your favorite mobile device. Download it onto your computer. Whatever you got to do, go to FanDuel right now. Get it. Have some fun with the Spurs, with the remaining games, or just the rest of the league and other sports. Again, only at FanDuel. Just visit FanDuel.com/lockedon to shoot your shot. FanDuel, official sports book partner of the NBA. I also want to talk to you about Muslinger's Drive-Thru Coffee. Go there right now, San Antonio, 2404 Thousand Oaks Drive. That's in the 281 to 1604 area. Get there right now. Open every day from 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. Need a latte? They got it. Cold brew? Got it. Muslinger signature coffee, the Muslinger, they got that too. You need a caffeine pick-me-up, a little charge boost to your day. Try the Red Bull Infused Lightning Bolt series. I recommend adding the strawberry flavor. Also, what if you want to take it easy? What if you just don't want all that caffeine? Well, they got you covered there at Muslingers. They have the OG OJ. I like that one. You should definitely get that one. Trust me, especially if you're an 80s baby like me. Look, Muslinger has it all. Again, open every single day from 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. Friendly staff, big menu, mini donuts, signature drinks coming out of the woodwork left or I don't know how they do it. It's like they're in the lab or something. They'll give you a new drink here, a new drink there, and they're all delicious. They're a proud local sponsor of Locked On Spurs and a proud local community member here in San Antonio, serving the San Antonio community. Follow them on social media at Muslinger SATX on Facebook, X, TikTok, Facebook. The list goes on, and they're very fan interactive. Trust me, give them a follow right now. Go to Muslinger's Drive-Thru Coffee right now, San Antonio, 2404 Thousand Oaks Drive. That's in the 281 to 1604 area. Open every single day from 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. Go there right now. Why? Because life is too short for bland coffee. And we're back right here on Locked On Spurs, joined by my colleague at Ken's 5. He is Casey Viera. Follow him on X at Casey_Viera. Casey, what's up, buddy?
How are you, my friend?
Doing good. By the way, I know I'm like way older than you, but I think you might remember this movie. Do you remember the movie, the old Stallone movie in the 80s, Over the Top?
I know of it. I've seen bits and pieces. It is before my time. But yes, I know the general premise.
Okay. So knowing the players that were in that arm wrestling tournament, how long do you think you can last?
I don't know, man.
One and done?
Sure. That is not a question I anticipated getting to start my morning, nor do I have a rational answer for.
I saw it over the weekend. That's why.
Ah.
I've been thinking about it, and I was wondering, like, how far do you think I started thinking to myself, like, how far do you think I can go? I think I can get out at least out of one round. I think I can
Yeah.
go out one round, and that's it, and then I'm done.
Yeah.
Then I'm getting cooked by the character who literally drinks a can of motor oil before every fight or every arm wrestling fight.
Yeah. I was gonna say I remember that part. Yeah. I
I
do
can see
recall
you doing
part.
that. I can see you doing that, Casey. I see you're that type of man. Give me a can of gasoline and oil, and I'll drink it.
I don't know what to make of that comment, but thanks. Sure. I appreciate that.
It's a good thing. Roll with it. Just roll with it.
I'll whatever you say, dude. Whatever you
All right.
say.
All right. Again, make sure to follow him on X at Casey_Viera. And yeah, let's get into it. So, Casey, over the last couple weeks, we've been doing draft day scenarios. So we covered one about trading completely out of the draft. Just whatever your first round pick is, whatever it is, get out, because you don't want to get younger. That was the argument. Then there was a concept of trading down, which I think the guest was kind of opposed to it simply because it's a watered down class.
Right.
Now, a fan asks us, okay, well, when are we going to do the scenario of trading up? Well, ta-da, here it is. So, Casey, you know how the Spurs are heading into the NBA draft. They got a buttload of them. They can do a lot of moving and wheeling and dealing, all that good stuff. If the Spurs have an opportunity to trade up in what is considered a weak class, you think that should be on the table?
I think everything is, and this is such a diplomatic answer for what you're asking, but I think everything should be. But I'm also of the mindset that, yeah, this is not a very good draft class. So it really, in my book, depends where that Toronto pick lands. If Toronto catches a little bit of something here and ends up on the back end of that top 10 or at number 10, I think at the time of this recording, they're at 7th best odds, which means the Spurs would get that pick. So I guess now that I process that thought a little bit more, it would be at best case scenario, you'd be trading the number 7 pick. No, it would be worst case scenario, you're trading the number 7 pick plus your own in all likelihood to move up, because I can't see them drafting 2 guys in this class unless they end up. No, let me rephrase that again. I can't see them using both those first round picks if they get it. I think there will be a subsequent move with that, because I do think they've seen enough right now with what they have that they're going to be, or at least should be, more aggressive in putting immediate talent around Victor. So I don't see them using both of those first, maybe top. Well, we know one of those will be a top 3.
Yeah,
3 to 5.
one of them's going to be a top 10. Yeah, one's going to be a top 3. Yep.
And the other one's not. But the general idea, depending on where that Toronto pick falls, I think they should be open to it, especially if they're set on that idea of getting one of the 2 Frenchmen out of there to pick front court with Victor, and they're dead set on that. And it's the difference from having 4 and 10 compared to picks 4 and 10 compared to number 2, which you feel like is very much as close to a lock as you can get. I think you explore it without a doubt.
Yeah, and this kind of goes back to my argument about trading out, is that they're good. This is a very young team, and they're going to get younger if they trade up. And these kids are 1 and dones, 2 and dones if you're lucky. They're a little bit more college seasoning, but there's that argument. There's not. I just look at the draft class, and there's not a Wemby, there's not a Zion, there's not. A deep 1 through 5 you're good. Kind of like we saw last draft with Wemby and Scoot and Miller.
Right.
I don't see that. So, and then you add the fact that this is a young team, and then you add the fact they're in a rebuild, and then you add the fact that there are teams that possibly could lap them. Houston, OKC's obviously lapped them. Sacramento's lapped them. Orlando's lapped them. Do you still want a player that may need seasoning in the Austin Spurs system? Probably be staple to the bench. They're not going to be that immediate impact player like we're seeing right now with Wemby. So I'm hesitant on that. I still advocate the Spurs should trade out. I mean, barring if they win it all. If they win out the number one pick, we'll keep it. But
Right.
Barring that, even to get 2 through 10, I'm like, all right, open for shop, NBA teams. If you got a quality veteran point guard, Darius Garland type, maybe Donovan Mitchell, then we're all ears. And by the way, we have a top 10, top 5 pick. All right, let's go. That's what I'm just concerned about, is just getting younger and the rebuild you're adding more seasons to that rebuild.
You're going to give me a hard time, but I missed the episode where you talked about trading out of the draft altogether. So what was your solution, your rationale as to beyond the idea of not liking the talent? So trading out of, say, like a top 10 pick what would be your alternative to that? Or I guess the return, I should say.
I'm looking for, like I mentioned, a Darius Garland type.
Okay.
I'm looking for that. I'm looking for that point guard that's needed to pair with Wemby, and you could do that immediately. Now, of course, teams may be looking at the Spurs pick and being like, okay, well, thank you for making the number 5 pick, but who we're going to get at the number 5? Okay, fine.
Right.
But we have multiple
picks.
So
so when you say trading out of the draft, you're proposing the idea of using that to acquire an all-star.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Got it. I'm of that overriding feeling. Yeah, I'm of that as well, because I just don't see anyone in this draft, in addition to where I would expect the subsequent draft picks to fall, at least of the Spurs themselves, that would match the likes of a Trae Young, that would match the likes of a Darius Garland type. But that's just me, and I'm not a scout. So I'm very much open to the idea of moving their own pick if they're confident that they feel that they can get a guy who is better than they would be taking at that ultimately 5 years down the road than what they would get at number 4 or whatever it may be. But at the same time, I know the premise of this was talking about moving up.
Right.
And it really, for me, it all depends on where the Toronto pick lies, if they get it. Because if that Toronto pick, like I said, if that Toronto pick is at 10, then I think it's definitely worth exploring.
And another thing too, where I would advocate maybe for trading up is if one of their guys that has been public that they've been scouting and is that French swing guy. I get a lot of comments saying you're mispronouncing his last name. I want to try again. Richache.
That one.
Spurs,
him and Star, the two freshmen that it seems like they're flirting with the idea. If I want to use the word tank loosely, but tanking.
Kind of,
sort
of.
I'm not sure how much of this is a tank anymore.
They're tanking to stay within that top 5, maybe.
Yeah.
But I think that could be the guy they're targeting, because it wasn't just Brian Wright. It wasn't the scouting department. Freaking Peter J. Holt went to go see a Richache basketball game this season. That's a little telling. So if their guy is still on the board, and let's just say whatever, they land at 6, okay, whatever, and then whoever is at 5, okay, we have an issue here. Like, do we move up? And I think a move like that I will be okay with, but I'm still like, no. Again, it's no knock about being a young team, but then again, at the same time, it is, because this season has been poor. I mean, okay, great.
Right.
They got the Thunder win. That's awesome. The 12th win of the season, but still, My fear again is getting younger and getting lapped by teams, and they already are getting lapped by teams, Casey.
Mm-hmm. Well, and here's something that is worth keeping in mind too. All these things that we're saying that picks 6 through, or even more so, picks 5 and beyond, teams are very skeptical of what's there, or it's very much considered a crapshoot. If we're saying this to rationalize what the Spurs should do, other teams are seeing this as well, that they're probably not going to be enamored by picks, whatever it may be, 6 and beyond, 5 and beyond. So for as much, and I know it was an idea I brought up of trading that Toronto pick itself, but it might cost you even more because they know that they're not going to they, meaning the other team, is going to get anything particularly captivating, that what they would want at that Toronto pick if it were to fall at number 9 or somewhere around there. So it might cost you more. So that might even be another thing to consider too, is that, like, if they want one of the 2 French kids at number 2 and they end up with picks 4 and 9, is that going to be enough for some of these teams?
Yeah.
So then they're exploring the idea of 4, 9, and maybe one of the Hawks picks.
Yeah.
You do that? 4, 9, and Vassell. 4, 9, and Keldon Johnson.
Yeah.
That's food for thought.
The thing too is that they have a Charlotte pick, right?
Yeah,
I think
but there's protections on it. This year, is it lotto protected, the Charlotte pick?
Lotto protected, yeah, which I think might get No, it might get protected at the rate the Hornets are going.
Yeah, the Hornets are terrible. So they're not. I haven't been counting that because I don't. They might be the worst team in the league without LaMelo.
So for sure, so that probably won't convey. But nevertheless, I'm okay with trading up if it's for one of the targets, like you mentioned, Sarr, Ricochet. But to trade up, and I mean, would you trade up for Topic? Man, that one's a tough one. For me, it depends on the asking price.
Yeah. I'd have to think about that.
I think Ricochet would fit better with the Spurs.
Yeah.
And but then do you want a 19, 20-year-old kid running your point guard spot? Now, he is phenomenal. He has great skills, but he sorely lacks on defense.
Well, here's the thing with the point guard spot. I'm at the point right now where I don't want to invest in a potential project player. I want something. I don't want to invest in a rookie. What we've learned anything from this year is that Victor Wembanyama needs a point guard. He absolutely needs a point guard. And if I'm the Spurs, I don't want to invest that pick into something that is a hypothetical of pairing him down the road. I want something more established right now, because we've seen what it's been with average to below average point guard play at best, and it has not been good at all. I'm not willing, after seeing what Victor can do right now in the immediacy, to waste any more time doing that with a 19, 20-year-old kid, whether it was him or whoever it may be they're drafting at that spot, or whoever it have you. Maybe I would much rather them make a move, even if it's not for Trae Young or someone like that. I'm not ready. I don't want to invest time in that point guard spot for the idea of just a hypothetical. I just can't do it right now.
Yeah, I can't either. And I think after Victor going through this bad season, I don't think any of the players, whoever's still on the rosters, want to do this again. I mean, look how they act when they get a win. I mean, and I was there in the locker room the other night versus Thunder, and it was like they won the title. You could just tell like how far and few between the wins have been this season. So do they want to go through that again? I mean, Devin Vassell cracked self-deprecating joke too during his pros conference, saying Yeah, you hear us. That's how far it is, between wins. So, yeah, that point guard spot, I think they gotta invested in an established player already. Ready made, ready to go, plug and play. Darius Garland, Trae Young, whoever it is. Even when they went after, reportedly went after DeJounte, I was like, fine, great, and good. That's a point guard, perfect. At least you were addressing the issue. So
Right.
there's that. But yeah, it's gonna be interesting to see what the Spurs do want to trade up. And of the three scenarios, trading out, trading down, trading up, which do you think is the more like, or keep? Maybe we should say just add in there, keep their pick. What do you think might happen ultimately come draft day 2024?
That's a good question, man. I don't know. I legitimately,
I think they trade.
I am doing nothing to help the narrative of this podcast. I know.
No, I think they keep.
Okay, let me
I think
phrase that.
Spurs will be the Spurs and they keep.
Say that one more time.
I think the Spurs will be the Spurs and they keep it.
I was going to say, what should they do and what would they do?
Yeah.
I think what should they do? I think they should move it. I think they need to be aggressive and take advantage, as I've not already made abundantly clear so far in these first few minutes. I think they need to be aggressive, and I think they need to move. If they get both of those picks in the top 10, I think they need to move it to get something more valid at that point guard spot. To get something more valid there. If they don't, well, it's a different story. But going back to what they in my mind, what they should do and they will do, they'll probably hold on to both.
Yeah. I mean, everybody thought they were going to move some recent first-round picks. Remember the Malachi and Blake Wesley ones? And what did they do? They kept it. So Spurs will likely be the Spurs. Hey, when we get back, we're going to continue talking about the draft and put Bronny James in the spotlight. Should the Spurs take a flyer on him if he does declare for the NBA draft? We'll talk about that coming up next right here on Locked On Spurs. Hey, I want to talk to you about PrizePicks. You want to go to PrizePicks right now, San Antonio, everybody else listening in. Why? Because PrizePicks is America's #1 fantasy sports app. And with over 3 million users, they are the easiest and most exciting way to play fantasy sports. Look, and it's just you versus the numbers. That's it. You pick more than or less than on 2 to 6 player stat projections, and you can start watching those winnings roll in. Look, they got it all at PrizePicks. They got Apple Pay for quick and easy deposits into your account this basketball season. They got quick withdrawals, easy gameplay, an enormous selection of player stats and stat types. That just makes what PrizePicks the #1 daily sports app. Look, PrizePicks is very simple to use. You can make your picks and submit them in pretty much less than 60 seconds. It's that easy. And yeah, they got it all. They even got theme days like Taco Tuesday, where PrizePicks discounts select player projections up to 25% to provide even more value. What more do you need? Go get yourself the PrizePick app right now. Go to prizepicks.com/LockedOnNBA. Use code LockedOnNBA for your first deposit match up to $100. That's prizepicks.com/LockedOnNBA. Code is LockedOnNBA. That'll get your first deposit match up to $100. Look, PrizePicks, it's pick more, pick less. It's that easy. We're back right here on Locked On Spurs with Casey Viera, the man who took the entire arm wrestling contest in the movie Over the Top with Sylvester Stallone. That was based on your...
That's not even remotely close to true. But
that wasn't that based on your real life story about how you took over that tournament and you won it and you retired after winning the title after just one run through the tournament?
No.
I thought it was. I thought Stallone was playing you in that movie.
If only. I wasn't even, I mean, that was like, now you think about it as literally as that. When that movie
exactly.
Early 80s?
Early 80s, yeah.
Yeah, I was going to say that was the script for my life story.
That was it already,
almost a decade before I was born.
Yeah, exactly. One day a man will be born in the 90s. Take this tournament. I'm going to portray him now, said Sylvester Stallone. And he'll do this damage at the arm wrestling tournament, and we'll call it Over the Top.
What's the thing they said all year for the NFL? The script was leaked.
Yeah, the script was leaked. Yeah, exactly.
The script was leaked for Casey Viera since day one.
Yeah, exactly.
Got it.
All right, Casey. So we're talking about the NBA draft. And by the way, everybody, make sure to follow Casey on X at Casey_Viera. He's my colleague at Ken's 5 San Antonio, holding it down on the sports desk every weekend. So we'll just keep it the draft talk here. And Bronny James, there's been a lot of talk about him. Will he or not declare? It sounds like the smart thing to do is not declare, but we don't know yet. And LeBron James recently popped off saying, leave the kid alone, leave him alone, let him just enjoy his college experience, whatnot. But there's also that narrative that LeBron James put out there that he would go and he would love to sail out into the sunset and retire, just having 1 year with playing alongside his son. The Spurs have a lot of picks. They have a lot of second-round picks. Likely, if Bronny James declares Casey, he'll probably be a second-round pick. Do you think the Spurs should take a flyer on that just for the chance of LeBron James coming to San Antonio?
See, all right, here's where I disagree with you. I don't think he's going to be a second-round pick. I think he's going to be a first-round pick. He might be a second-round talent, but if there's as much concrete belief that LeBron James is going to be attached to Bronny as it appears to be, I think someone's going to bite, and I think someone's going to use a first-round pick. I think a contender or someone close to it who feels like, yeah. Well, I mean, say he comes out. I think there's just too much for him to climb uphill. Bronny, that is, based off of getting sick last year, and he hasn't had a particularly great season for a bad USC team this year. I can't imagine him leaving right now. I can. And mind you, I do not know Bronny James in any capacity. I'm just thinking about this out loud, very literally, as to what it is a 19-year-old kid who just went through a very traumatic situation, essentially having a heart attack, getting back into the collegiate game slowly but surely, and all of a sudden he's going to go into the NBA ranks that quickly. I have a hard time viewing him going in this year, but the idea still remains the same. Mm-hmm. That I do very much think that it's a package deal. It's going to be LeBron and Bronny, and then LeBron relatively on a more reasonable contract to play with his kid. So with that, I think, yeah, go ahead.
No, I would say if the Spurs were to take it, I mean, obviously, if you think Wemby is blockbuster right now, must see TV. Imagine Bronny, LeBron, and Wemby together on one court. I mean, there is. If we look at the financial side of things, Casey, not necessarily the on-court action,
right?
Spurs are a small market; they can definitely use that extra cash.
Yeah, I mean, well, the thing is, like, we don't. People are saying Bronny right now is because the numbers haven't been great. Without it, the numbers have not been good for him in this 1 year at USC. But it's really, in my mind, it's really tough to slap any labels on him for what it is this year. So before we start declaring anything box office, for better or worse, we don't know what he is yet. You're not drafting Bronny in theory right now for the idea of having Bronny as your true focal point of the future. He might be, but that's not going to be the plan when you take him. The plan is that you have an immediate contention window with getting LeBron. Mm-hmm. And if the Spurs are there, going back to the San Antonio side of things, I absolutely would use, especially given. Okay. So let's think about it for this time next year. They'll have the Hawks pick and they'll have their own picks. Say their own pick falls back end of the lottery, early 20s. Okay. Do you do it knowing that you probably can get a one-off of LeBron, unless LeBron has like a serious fall off into next year? Do you
or he re-ups the Lakers or something stupid,
right?
Like that.
Or he well, that's another dynamic that you could talk about with this too, because there was the Windhorse report that said he was going to try to pursue a 9-figure deal in LA, but unless he has the opt-out in there, which he might, because the current deals that he's been signing, the regular deals, have had that. All this might be a moot point altogether. But back to the Spurs side of things, if you get a pick a lotto pick, back end lotto pick. We'll even make it spicier. 14, 15 for what could potentially be a second round talent, but you get LeBron for that 2-year window. Do you do it?
In my opinion, I don't think I would. Why? Because one, a wasted pick. The Spurs can, if it's needed, for the rebuild to get them out of this faster. And okay, fine, maybe it's a late first round, but whatever. Again, you can package that and trade it out. I think you do that.
Okay.
Two, can the Spurs afford to bring in a project player at this moment in time? And that's what Bronny's going to be, a project player. I mean, he might as well be drafted by the Austin Spurs that night. Just go, because he'll likely be in the G League. Although, I mean,
right.
Can you imagine LeBron, reacting to that? My son in the G League? What?
Yeah, no chance.
Yeah, that ain't gonna happen. But oh man, but again, it's that lure of just having LeBron on your team, and even if it's for one season, if he can inject that winning mentality into this young team, I mean, that's some value there, Casey.
That's why I think I'd do it. I think I'd do it because it isn't, while it's a potentially a back end lottery pick, a pick before 20, there is very much a crapshoot element after you get outside the top 10 of these drafts. So, an example, like just thinking off the top of my head without doing any research, Lonnie Walker, what'd he go? Pick 19 when he was here?
Mm-hmm.
Somewhere around there?
Yeah.
You're going to get a Lonnie Walker player for 4 years. Or the general idea, not particularly Lonnie per se, but a role player is going to be here 4 years, or the window of having LeBron for 2. What's more valuable?
I mean, LeBron.
That's the other way. You have to think about it.
Look, I'm not trying to compare him to Samanic, and obviously, that. But I mean, look how Spurs fans reacted with a wasted pick like Samanic.
Well, there you go. But there you go. That's another. Right, that's another prime example, though. Samanic was 22?
No, he was 19. Pick 19.
Pick 19, but there you go. Okay, so that's even a worse case scenario.
Mm-hmm. That's
even a worse case scenario than Lonnie Walker. You're getting not even a role player. You're getting a guy who didn't even make it the duration of his rookie contract. Or more food for thought.
Yeah. Ultimately, I would say no. As much as I know the lure of LeBron, I just don't think. Oh man, it's
just so you want to say LeBron at, what would he be then? 42?
Yeah.
41? The idea of having him just for 2, but you're thinking, so there's a train of thought. You're like, he's going to be washed up at that point. But the guy has not shown. He has not shown that he's washed. That he's going to have a massive regression.
If Casey's GM for the Spurs for one night, and that night happened to be the draft night, and Bronny James' name on the board, late first round, you're pulling the trigger?
If I was of the belief that LeBron's with him, yeah.
Man, you know what? I can't disagree with that. I can't disagree with that because you gotta. I just think about it like this: is that you have one ready-made all-star again, on the Victor side of things. You have one ready-made all-star good to go. I'm pairing him with another, not even if he's not even a top 10 player, I'm pairing him with a really good number 2. Mm-hmm.
A guy who will offer any and every bit of long-term help off the court, professionalism, winning mentality in every single capacity. I just think I have to, at pick 17, 18, maybe even 15, I'm much rather willing to try my hand at that than end up with a potential role player at 15 for 4 years, and then you pass up on him. You let him go. You don't re-sign him or whatever it is. I would bite. I would do it.
Yeah. It's gonna be interesting to see what happens with Bronny in his future. You're right. He not the greatest This is rookie season. I mean,
Well,
rookie,
but okay. So here's another thing, though.
what's
How
up?
do you say Bronny improves? We're talking about all this, and we haven't even talked about the Bronny side of it. There's a chance that at 15 you're getting a role player in Bronny, anyways. So realistically, what the move is get a role player and 2 cracks at winning a championship with LeBron, or just getting a role player entirely.
He's the weekend sports anchor. They'll keep you going throughout the entire weekend, all things sports, everything silver and black, and so much more. And as always, we thank you for making Locked On Spurs your first listen each and every day, free and available wherever you get podcasts, iTunes, 5 Plus app, Spotify. List goes on and on. We'll be back tomorrow. More silver and black talk as the Spurs wind down the season. I can't believe I'm saying that already. They're winding down the season. It's over. Thank you.
I know. That, right? It goes by so fast.
It does really go by so fast. But we'll keep you up to date on all things silver and black as the Spurs wind down the season. But for Casey Viera, I am Jeff Garcia. We're going to put a lock on this episode of Locked On Spurs.